I'm Emma Evanko. I'm the CEO and founder of the Athlete's Mental Playbook. I swear I was like born with a stick in my hand. I'm the youngest of 5, so I grew up around sports my whole entire life. Really took a liking to lacrosse. That was something I knew I just needed in my life. I craved it and I was like, I want to compete at the highest level. That physical outlet, just being able to run, had a bad day at school, didn't do so well on a test, go run it out, go run miles up and down the field. So that's kind of how I got into it, and it's never left since then. When I first got that email from Butler, on September 1st, I remember it so clearly. I looked at my dad, I was like, I don't know where Indiana is on a map, I'm not going. And my dad was like, you are crazy. It's a great school, you're gonna go. They have a great basketball team. I'm like, of course you know that. Biggest piece of advice that I got was find a school that you'll love if lacrosse is ever taken away from you. And obviously, I was like, lacrosse is never gonna be taken away from me. I've been healthy my whole life. I'm not gonna be that injured kid. When I got here, about 2 weeks in, I was getting pain from the hips down and just completely numb, and my parents would come to visit and they're like, what is going on? I vividly remember they came to visit for a fall game, saw me try to walk upstairs and they're like, what? Are you okay? I was like, I've been in a lot of pain. And for me to say that, because again, I was the workhorse and I was always running. It was really hard for me to say something because I didn't want my coaching staff to be like, oh, this girl just isn't cut out for Division I lacrosse. Just battling with that and trying to push through and not playing to the level I knew I was capable of was really frustrating. But you're just constantly in your head, what are coaches thinking? How did this girl get here? Why did we recruit her? What did we see in her? And then just feeling like you're crying wolf when they're not finding anything and they're like, oh, shin splints or stress fractures. And I'm like, oh wow, I should be able to run through some shin splints. So just battling with that on and off for my whole freshman year. That was kind of that experience until I finally got diagnosed with compartment syndrome at the end of my freshman year. I got surgery beginning of summer after my freshman year. And so I was in 2 boots. I had all 4 compartments on both legs released. So basically couldn't use my legs for 2 weeks. Feeling so helpless is earth-shattering, because then the thoughts of, I used to be this crazy athlete who was capable of so much more than the average human, and now I can barely get up and do simple tasks on my own. Having to find my identity outside of lacrosse was by far one of the hardest things I ever had to do. My mom, she put a sports psychology book right next to my bed. She knew what she was doing. And we had a sports psychologist come to our high school before every sports season and talk to us. I was like, yeah, what does this guy have to say? Sports psychology, this is a joke. You just go out and play. So I picked it up. I was like, I am so bored, I will read this book. And then things started to click of just how much your thought process has an effect on your physical performance. That's when it clicked that through the recruiting process, I dealt with performance anxiety, but I didn't know at the time because I couldn't put a name to it. And again, being raised old school of just mental health, all those things, not real. It's something you're cultivating in your head. I had a long road of recovery ahead of me. I was like, I need to be in the right mindset because that affects your healing process as well. Because if your body's constantly under stress, it's gonna be longer. And I was like, I need this to be done as soon as possible. So that's kind of how I got into the mental health space. And then perfect timing, get back to campus, still doing physical therapy. Our trainer goes, oh, we just brought sports psychologist on staff. And I was like, sign me up, sign me up. This is perfect. I was her first student athlete while she was here. And I think she could sense my apprehension to open up. And it was a lot for me to be I was like, what am I gonna talk to a therapist about? I don't wanna talk about myself for an hour. I didn't even know how to process my emotions or even talk about it. So she's like, get into journaling. So I saw the value of that and it changed my life. I had so much more gratitude and a deeper greater perspective on so many other things. People around me were like, you are just doing so well, And they were like, you have this glow to you. I was like, oh, that's awesome. When someone tells you that, you're like, okay, I'm doing something right. When I thought I was gonna get back to playing, finally, I had a ton of performance anxiety. I was like, I have not played a real lacrosse game in 3 years. I just did a quick Google search and I was like, oh, sports journals, for games. I was 3 Google pages deep. I was like, it has to exist. it's a genius idea, and I know so many other people struggle with it. Nothing was there. And I was like, okay, I think I could be onto something. Instead of feeling sorry for myself, I was like, I'm gonna make something that's gonna help people. I don't want people to feel the way I did, and if I can do something about it, I'm gonna do something about it. So anytime I had a bad day, you know, like couldn't work out, well, I'm gonna go work on the journal. The personal playbook is a private and convenient mindfulness journal designed to last a season. So there's a few sections. The front of it's kind of just mindfulness prompt and kind of activities, not all just writing, because athletes, you know, needs interactive stuff. And then there's a game day section, so pre-game reflection, like if you're feeling anxious before, like that performance anxiety, write it out, get it out of your head. And then post-game, so like what went well, what didn't go well, how can you improve? And then kind of a post-season reflection, so just like how to go, what are your goals moving forward, and making it way less overwhelming. When you're like, I just want to be the best on the team. Well, how are you going to do that? What are those steps to do that? Or what are areas you can just improve upon? It's a great resource too for coaches who don't know how to approach that difficult conversation. And I've had a lot of coaches say, like, this is awesome. When an athlete comes up to me and says something, I don't know how to best approach it, because it is something you have to be careful with. As much as giving up the sport took a toll on me, I'm almost grateful for it, because I had that opportunity to figure out who I was, like what motivates me, what am I passionate about, which I think a lot of athletes, there's no self-awareness because they don't have time or the ability to learn more about themselves, to hang out with themselves. Like alone time is not a bad thing. Getting rid of that stigma that vulnerability equates to weakness, because that's the farthest thing from the truth. I think it takes so much strength to be able to come forward and say when you're struggling, and to be self-aware enough to have that hard conversations and to be there for other athletes and to advocate for it, I think is huge. We're headed in the right direction, but I think we need to do a lot more. And starting the conversation is, we need to do more than that. It's not just a conversation, we need to take action.